At Sierra, discover joyous deals on great gifts for everyone on your list. Like cozy slippers, ski gear, fishing poles, bikes, large kayaks, even larger canoes. Whew, which might lead to another discovery. Wrapping gifts is the only sport you need to stay fit this season. 'Tis the season to discover great gifts at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
And Doug.
Here we have the Limu Emu in its natural habitat, helping people customize their car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Fascinating. It's accompanied by his natural ally, Doug.
Limu? Is that guy with the binoculars watching us?
Cut the camera. They see us.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
The Last Show with David Cooper, where we apply quantum mechanical, psychoanalytical astrotherapy to your problems.
What happens when you catch feelings for someone who isn't your romantic partner and you're still happily committed? It's an innocent crush, right? But does a simple crush quietly change the very relationship you're already in? Well, that is a question we're going to answer with someone who researched just this. She is a social psychologist at the University of New Brunswick, and her name is Lucia O'Sullivan. Lucia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I love that you studied crushes. It's such a fun thing, and we all kind of get them, although I think a lot of folks aren't willing to admit it, right?
Yeah, we were, it's fun to be able to study topics like this. It really balances out some of the darker stuff I have to study. But this emerged just out of talking with friends. We all harbor crushes, and yet it seemed only to be studied amongst teenagers.
I would never embarrass my girlfriend, so I'm talking about somebody who isn't her, but she's got the occasional workplace crush, and we just laugh about it, and it doesn't really seem to affect our relationship at all. There must be various categories of crushes, right? Like there must be various types of crushes, and could you tell me what some of them are?
Yeah, there definitely are. And we were wondering about this ourselves because we spend so much more time with people who aren't our partner in the course of our waking hours. And so the exposure to attractive people, it just is natural. We're drawn to others. So, how do we put the blinders on if that's the decision we have with our partner to be exclusive, for instance? And we were wondering, are these a problem? Like when we asked people originally, they said, oh, it's for fun, it's fantasy, it adds a little spark to my day, but they were not telling their partner about it for sure. And we came from this also from the world of infidelity, because we know all infidelity has to start from some attraction. But if we're all harboring attraction to other people, how do we put the guardrails up? And so, we tracked people over 6 weeks and found that there were definitely the back burner type, the person who you saw every now and then. It always kept at a low ebb and really didn't do all that much. And then there were definitely the ones where the intensity grew steadily over time. And we found that those were often the most problematic, where there's a tripwire ahead and you're heading right for it, and part of this was set in the context of what do we do to sort of to quell our attraction? How do we dampen it if that's what we want to do? Turns out we're terrible at doing that.
Well, I believe that. I was struck by what you said, this not telling your partner. Like, I would be a little hurt if my girlfriend had a little office crush and she didn't tell me. It would feel like she was hiding something, that it was a little private thing, versus just like, oh, I like this person. I give him a cheeky smile every now and again. And like, I think there are ways in which we can approach trouble, right? Like, I'll give an example. Maybe you're booking a work trip and you book the adjoining room with your crush and you don't tell your significant other, versus just someone who you're a little bit extra friendly with throughout the day. Like, these categories. Is that important, how we act with our feelings at the workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we were looking at crushes that were definitely not celebrities. So these are people that you have a chance to interact with. And amongst people who are all in established relationship where they have an agreement to be exclusive. So that's important because if you had a consensual non-monogamous relationship, it's a very different ballgame. But most people expect exclusivity, romantic and sexual exclusivity. And yeah, we do find that there's definitely the ones where you interact more frequently as opposed to that person you see occasionally in the coffee shop or at the gym. The one where you have to work late with or travel with, yeah, definitely more troublesome. And so we started recognizing that there are tripwires for sure. So having and acknowledging your attraction to someone, okay, that's all good. That's safe territory. Communicating it in some way, things get a little trickier because you're kind of forcing a pivot. And particularly, of course, if that person reciprocates the attraction. And then you really are at a decision point because it almost always leads to increased interaction.
Interesting. So one tripwire would be communicating to that barista, that coworker, that teammate that you have a crush on them. That's one of the lines you probably shouldn't cross.
Right. And so harboring an attraction from a distance, quite okay. Bringing that attraction forward, that's problematic. That's playing with fire.
What did you learn about how these crushes develop or even fade over time? Like, how do they form in the first place?
We do find that there's a notable subset who really just have a whole bunch of different crushes. So, they're not the active prowlers, like they're looking for someone, but definitely the ones who appreciate beauty and the environment. So they can say, yeah, I've got a crush. Every time we assess them, they had at least 2 or 3 people they'd nominate, not always the same people. Those aren't actually so much the problem. It's that one person who gets increasingly close to you over time, who begins to know private information that normally you would disclose to your partner, who really you are away from the eyes of other people. That's the more problematic scenario. It doesn't necessarily lead to infidelity or something, but it leads to some reckoning.
I've had an office relationship like that, and it was dysfunctional and bad, and it was 10 years ago, and okay, let's move on. Are there cases like, for example, when my girlfriend, oh wait, I'm not supposed to talk about her. When someone who isn't my girlfriend tells me that she has a crush, I just think it's cute, and we laugh about it, and I maybe tease her, and that's the end of it. I don't think that's particularly damaging. Maybe I'm naive. But are there cases where office crushes in your life don't really damage your primary relationship?
Yeah, I think for the most part, we can just relax. Most of these attractions are harmless. They add a little spark to your day. When we ask people, would you leave your partner if the opportunity arose? Only 17% said yes, but they all had bad relationships. And this even when we accounted for how often you were interacting with them. So there are particular scenarios where things get problematic for sure. I think it's naive for us to think that we can only be attracted to the one person that we commit to. We have these agreements that we're going to be exclusive, but they're really hard to maintain. I mean, as a species, we're not very good at it anyway. We can do sort of serial monogamy at best. But the overlap is very few people end a relationship without a backup plan, without that back burner who suddenly comes to the forefront. And we also study mate poaching in my lab, and it's an interesting scenario as well that, we like to know that, there's someone else out there who would appreciate us if our partner doesn't.
Sure, we can't control our impulses, our crushes, but we can certainly control our actions.
Yeah.
Taking a really high-level view, what do you wish people understood about crushes in committed relationships?
Well, mostly that they're pretty harmless and unavoidable. But we have done quite a lot of research looking at different ways people try to create some distance. One is to focus on their relationship partner. Oh, isn't he lovely? Isn't she wonderful? The other is to chastise themselves. Stay the course, focus, get away from, all that kind of thing. And The third is to really derogate the attractive others. So to focus on, I hate the way they always, the square fingertips, or the way they always, belch after they eat whatever,
That's
hamburger.
me. That's me.
Who knows what? Turns out none of those things are very effective.
Oh boy.
We thought they would be. But it turns out we tend to use those strategies as last-ditch efforts when things have really started to spiral.
Lucia O'Sullivan is a social psychologist from the University of New Brunswick. Lucia, I appreciate you sharing your research and having this chat with me.
Thank you. I loved it.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.